Now that I'm done talking about the best and the worst of 2025, let's move a bit further and talk about the most anticipated movies of 2026. Hey, what's up, you guys? It's me, your Kid Review, and 2025 had some hits and a couple misses where I'm like, yeah, a few of these were really disappointments, and I really didn't hate as much movies as I thought I was because I feel like, okay, there's a couple ones where I'm like, I was excited for it, but then a couple ended up disappointing me where I'm like, well, there's more disappointments than bad movies, and at least I could say there's not a bad movie I can say I despise as much because it got to that point where I was like, okay, I'm excited for some movies, and when I go see them, I'm like, okay, I got what I got. But then there are the few where I'm like, at least it wasn't a bad movie. It's one that kind of disappointed me in some ways, but I'm like, okay, at least I'm not out there spending money on bad movies, even though that would be a good fun. Just like before, these lists are in no particular order, they're more in order of release, and a couple ones where I'm like, yeah, I'm really more excited for this more than others, but that doesn't mean that's really my anticipated or the best movies I'm gonna see. There's a couple more on the list that might not even be on the top 10 end of year list. And let me just say, yeah, 2026 has some bangers coming, and for the most part, I hope they're all good. A couple of the ones where I'm like, okay, iffy, depending on how things go, but as long as people still watch them, I'm still gonna be excited for it either way. Also, I'm not gonna mention any movies I already had on my other previous list because I could say, yeah, they were there for the time, but I'm not gonna add movies like Michael or Mortal Kombat 2 onto my list because I had time to talk about them before, and it's time to leave some more other options for 2026 because most of these haven't been delays, and I just know I'm like, yeah, I'm still excited for those movies, but I'm just want to talk about some of the new stuff coming out. Now that we're in February, let's get to the biggest one I can just say is Scream 7. Despite the controversies behind the scenes and the boycotts, I'm hearing people talk about this movie, which, let's be real, let's boycott movies that are way, I want to see way worse, but also worth hating on because it's kind of funny how in the midst of all this stuff, there was a movie called Melania, and I'm surprised people went to go see it, and I'm like, should I do a video or a little tease messing with people going to see this? No, I don't want to get kicked out of one of my favorite theaters. Ghostface is back to get his revenge on Sydney. Hopefully things work out with this one because I feel like despite the trailer showing, oh, this Ghostface is different, quote unquote, and he's been planning this for a long time, let me just say, yeah, this movie isn't really taking like the movie meta thing it was previously basing Scream on. It feels like it's going to be its own little twist on Halloween H2O, which it feels like, yeah, I'm looking at it from a way where, oh, is this certain Ghostface possibly Stu Macher? Maybe to put some rumors to rest, and seeing as though there was a previous trailer which kind of did show us Stu in the middle of Wuthering Heights, I thought, okay, so they don't have that in HD yet, so that tells me some people are and aren't in the know about this whole story. Hopefully the movie's good, but let me just say, Scream has to do something possibly different next time because I feel like, okay, this is going back to Sydney, which it's cool. I would have expected that further down in a movie, but seeing as though we deviated from what the previous trilogy was going to be, really ending off with the Carpenter sisters, hopefully this could actually be another win with Sidney Prescott. Next up is The Mandalorian and Grogu, which it's kind of funny that the last trailer actually was the story trailer that actually introduced what it is that's going on in this film because most of what we've been seeing are highlights from other moments we've seen throughout the show and characters returning. Yes, I know people are like, okay, I'm seeing a lot of Clone Wars and a little bit of Rebels characters returning in this, but what's really going to be the main thing unless you're wasting a season on Disney Plus? What I can say is Star Wars is back on the big screen, and with The Mandalorian, most week I thought, you know what? This was supposedly the Boba Fett movie that was gonna go to theaters, but then they actually redid it and did its own thing. I have my faith in Jon Favreau, and I just know if this is a hit, yeah, Star Wars is back in whatever shape or form, and hopefully they could actually bring some new ideas to the big screen rather than just relying on, I don't know, agendas and stuff like that to actually gain new audiences. Coming up next is an 80s throwback, and in this case, by the power of Grayskull, Masters of the Universe is next up. It's been years trying to bring He-Man to the big screen or on the small screen, depending on which shape Netflix was going to do it as. With the trailer, I kind of like that it did the over reversal thing where I thought, okay, it's going to be our characters coming into the real world. But seeing as though I'm like, well, that is technically part of the lore, and a little bit's a bit modernized because I just peeped that, yeah, these characters are really in modern day. And if they were to set this in Eternia back in the 80s as it would have been, I wonder if it would have still had that style and flair. And funny enough, the characters in here, even the sets and the environments, especially Castle Grayskull, look on par. Especially when Adam turns into He-Man. That makes me wonder. Okay, so they have the looks down, even down to the toys, because they just released a set of He-Man toys. And I thought, you know what? It kind of has a little bit of that MCU style with the actor's face on them on the toys. but they're still recognizable, and hopefully this movie ends up being good. A part of me is like, okay, we have fantasy like Game of Thrones, Lord of the Rings still relevant, but hopefully enough this gains a bigger audiences because we had Dungeons and Dragons, which is a movie I loved, but not a lot of people want to go see it. But seeing as that there hasn't been another He-Man thing since the Netflix animated series, I'm wondering, okay, are kids into this or is this for the older guys like us? In this case, I just know by the power of Grayskull, I just know it's going to be a hit. Next up is one of many superhero movies that's going to be on this list, and it's mostly the third chapter in this whole DC universe, and it's Supergirl. Seeing how James Gunn reintroduced the world to Superman and the way his consistency has been in the three projects already, it makes me wonder, okay, so now that we have a new head doing this movie, and from the around the clips we've seen, we have Lobo in the mix, which Jason Momoa in that Lobo outfit, I just know, okay, he's having the time of his life doing that. And weirdly, I'm like, yeah, that look works. Funny enough, it took a couple of years, but it's still good. Seeing as though this is a different take in the fact that, okay, instead of doing an original DC movie, they're actually doing inspiration from the Woman of Tomorrow story, which I'm kind of seeing as though, okay, they're translating it on the big screen and seeing as though, okay, DC has a strive with the storytelling in the comics and within the animated movies themselves. So if they could try to pull off a story like this in an actual live action movie, I can just say, you know what? Hopefully this ends up good. And if it is, it's a testament to, you know what? DC, do whatever you did with the animated movies and live action. And just like what you did with Superman, basing the characters around the animated series in a world full of DC heroes, I just know once you get to the bigger characters, yeah, that's your DC universe right there, and they could actually do it right. Next up is a movie I hope is good, but seeing as though they missed this mark during the Super Bowl, and I was wondering whether or not that trailer is going to drop, it's going to be Toy Story 5. The way I'm seeing is though, okay, it's toys versus technology. Do we need a 5? I said before, we do we need a 4? Because I feel like that whole Toy Story trilogy wrapped. But seeing as though, you know what? Toy Story 4, controversially, I'm going to just say it, I don't think it's bad. I just don't like the ending. And funny enough, I hate the fact, and this is a little story time I'm about to add onto this thing. So back in high school, my English teacher was talking about character growth within stories, and she said, "Oh, you can pick from real life, movies, TV series, whatever you guys are watching nowadays." And somebody said, "Oh, Toy Story 4 with Woody." I'm like, okay, let me hear you out on this. They went on to say that Woody's story feels like it's at a conclusion with 3, and now that once Woody entered into 4, seeing as though he's not really Bonnie's favorite toy and he doesn't feel like he has a responsibility for her, since Forky was the new favorite and everything between him and his role was actually deduced. I was like, okay, that's a good point right there. And once she said, "Oh, it was a good idea that Woody left everybody and left to be a lost toy," I said, "Yeah, bullshit." Subjectively, I hated that Woody left. I don't know how he gets back to Bonnie's room, but I feel like okay, the movie's gonna explain, and possibly with the trailer, they're actually gonna give the reason why. But in this case, it's another Toy Story film, and funny enough, it's been hit after hit after hit. They haven't missed yet. This is the one franchise Pixar has been consistently like, yeah, we can't mess any of these movies up. And so far, I can't lie with results, and I can just say, yeah, if they make another one, I'll still be down for it. But if they could end it at 5 or at least keep it going at the way it is, I'm still gonna be down to go see it. Ghostface isn't the only mask killer out there. There's another Ghostface, which it's kind of funny how, you know what? It's surprising that this movie was announced the way it was announced, but then later along we heard, oh, the original creators have ownership, and bringing back some of the original cast told me, you know what? I'm actually going to be excited for it, and hopefully it's as funny as they make claim to be, and it's Scary Movie 6. At a time when parody movies were done in this case, where I thought, okay, we had our run, this was an era of movies where people thought, okay, it's funny for the time, but nowadays with people being soft and not really down to watch comedies in theaters for some reason, where I thought, yeah, I miss old school comedy like this, or whenever the occasional comedic movie or comedic R raunch movie would come out. We don't normally get those nowadays. And funny enough, last year we had the Naked Gun release, which told me, you know what? There's some hope in this, and people did show up to go see it. And funny enough, that said, you know what? Hopefully, this could be a resurgence. And once the Wayans brothers were attached to this movie, I said, you know what? I'm down to see it. There's a lot they can pull from for the last decade of movies. They already put out a list of the ones they have. And funny enough, it's been revealed that Art the Clown is going to be parodied in this, which I wonder what exactly are they going to do. They said they're going to be doing like the mall scene from Terrifier 3. But if that's the only thing they're doing, I kind of want them to do a little bit more since you have a popularity with Ghostface, with Art the Clown, maybe some other serial killers in the mix, or maybe some other spoofs of movies that hopefully make an exception because I feel like the ones they did say are acceptable. But I wonder what else is going to be going on because you know there's a lot of commentary in horror films, movies, especially some of the agendas people have nowadays where, oh, you can't be saying this because it's too offensive. And Marlon Wayans did say, yeah, we need a good laugh. We need an old school laugh. And hopefully it just is just a good time at the movies. All I can say. These last four is mostly funny because they both come out the same months. Two of them come out in July and the two come out in December. It's not going to be obvious to say which one it's going to be, but I'm just going to be starting with release dates first. And the first one is Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey. I've been curious from the way they've been talking about this film and seeing as though, okay, we have our first trailer. And also, funny enough, when I went to go see Avatar, they actually did like the 5 minute scene with them on the beach. I thought, you know what? This movie actually looks good from the way I'm seeing it, and seeing as though it's one of those weirdly Christopher Nolan actually edited this trailer and clip with sound. I normally never saw that in movies of his before when they do a sneak peek, but at least the sound quality is good. The Odyssey was a movie my own film professor said was unfilmable, that it can never be done. I wish I was still in school so I could tell him, you know what? You're wrong. I'm right. And anything could be filmed if you put the right mind and editor into it. And funny enough, Christopher Nolan's first movie using VFX were, I'm thinking, you know what? Whatever size and scale he could do with the Batman movies, where, okay, he tried to make these elements realistic. I wonder what we could do with actual freedom and seeing as though you could kind of say historical accuracy is out of the picture in this one. I just want to see what he does with movies on a big scale, so that tells me the next one, hopefully, he could actually try and include that. This next one has two members from the Odyssey, and funny enough, it's been years since we've seen these characters. And let's just say, hopefully, this is a brand new day because Spider Man is back on the big screen, and I wonder what exactly is going to be the trail for this movie because I feel like, okay, we have our own little Spider Man movie on the side and an Avengers movie coming out, which that tells me, okay, he's not going to be part of that, but what's exactly going to be the thing that keeps him street level Spider Man and also our new introduction to a few returning characters and some new ones because I feel like the way they were hyping this movie up, that tells me, okay, is this going to be a street level story or is this going to be something setting something bigger for the future? Because you don't just introduce certain characters without telling us who they are, and returning characters that tells me, yeah, they're actually fixing these guys. I'm keeping it brief because there are some pictures out there. I don't know if the trailer's going to release at some point because that tells me, okay, are these leaks real? Are these leaks not? But from what I'm seeing, yeah, I'm excited for it. And funny enough, it's going to be the movie that says, you know what? This is Spider Man as Spider Man should have been from the beginning. And weirdly, what Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider Man was to this, because I feel like if that story was MCUified to where Spider Man would have been his own little short hero in his own little tiny world versus him being already accepted into the Avengers and going on the high scaled adventures, this story would tell me, you know what? This is what Spider Man should have been from the beginning. And I wouldn't mind seeing another trilogy because I don't even know if it's the end for Tom Holland Spider Man or whether or not Secret Wars is the real end of this whole MCU. But hopefully, this ends up being a banger. And I just know at some point, I feel like, yeah, we're going to have to accept that Spider Man has been on his own rather than just been teamed up with hero after hero. Next up is part one of Doomsday, which it kind of ruins a little bit of the title, which they try to capture off of Barbenheimer. But let's just start with the first one I feel like I am going to see, and it's Dune Part 3 or Dune Messiah, depending on what they call it. Dune is a franchise, I would say, okay, you wanted to remake Dune for a new age. I said, okay, that's a good idea. HBO Max was the thing that told me, is this going to make enough money? Because I'm not even sure people would go see this in theaters knowing it's already on the app. I was one of those people who said, you know what, I'll go see it in theaters, even though it's already here. And funny enough, I said, you know what, if this doesn't get the sequel and this is the very end of that story, it's a good attempt, but if you could get Dune right, you can get it right. We got lucky that Dune was actually one of the best movies of that year, and Dune Part 2 actually did its best where, you know what? People want to see more and actually didn't just see this as a throwaway franchise and a better Star Wars representative for right now because I feel like, yeah, sci-fi movies is exactly what I think of when I see movies like Star Wars, but Dune originated first, and Dune did better than Star Wars in the many attempts it had on Disney Plus. Lastly is the biggest end of this whole thing, and it's just Avengers Doomsday. I don't need to say it because it's already in the title. Avengers Doomsday, I'm still excited, but it's a little bit more of, okay, can they pull this off? We already have a couple MCU projects in the middle of the year. We already have some that are animated, but mostly it's like, what is exactly going to be the thing leading us to Secret Wars? Because every phase had a purpose. This phase was a little bit jumpy where they had to switch up a bit of the plans they had in mind. Justin Daniel Cretton didn't even do his Avengers movie, which is kind of funny because yeah, we were leaning to a King Dynasty, but he wanted something in return with Spider Man. Of all the teasers we had for this thing, it gives me a little bit of hope that the Russo brothers are actually doing the right thing, but also it's a little bit of, yeah, do we just end the multiverse saga with this and then just move on to something different? Or is this going to be the beginning of the conclusion? Because I feel like, yeah, there are some characters I'm not even sure are returning or still factors up in the air of whether they're coming back or not. At this point, I don't think the MCU is at a low point, but it's one of those. Hopefully, they can actually pull this off because I feel like if they're going to be doing an Avengers movie just to do an Avengers movie without actual lead up going to that villain, I'm like, okay, that's something I would have expected early because Kang was destined to be the villain for the next Avengers movie, then move on to Secret Wars, which would have been the original plan. I still have hope, and hopefully, when the first trailer drops, I just know a lot of people are going to be glazing it. As long as the movie actually keeps its spirit and actually has Doctor Doom as a main threat and not just Tony Stark 2.0, I won't be disappointed. But then again, I just want to see my favorite heroes actually done right on the big screen and some crossovers with characters I feel like, yeah, this should have been this from the beginning. And once this whole thing ends or resets, that's the standard. Whatever Superman did to reignite the DC universe, it better be the way to reignite the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And that's it. Those are my top 10 anticipated movies for 2026. And I hope there's actually a lot being done in this channel because I feel like, yeah, I have been a little bit slacking and these past 2 months did kind of show it. I still expect to do big things and not just improve myself, but also some of the things I do because I feel like, yeah, I have a lot of plans and ideas I want to throw out into the world. And especially for this channel because I do want to film some stuff, but I just need like the right amount of space and time to actually do it. I'm in the middle of a transition, but hopefully things will work out because I just know if I keep doing what I'm doing, there's nothing that I can actually deny and say I'm actually not proud of it. All right, guys, thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. All my social media is down in the description below, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye, guys.